Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Thursday, March 16th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Indiana game is in 170 days, the game against Michigan in 254 days, and the NCAA tournament is in 0 days. It starts today. Yes, there are those that will tell you it started 2 days ago in Dayton. Those people are filthy liars. Everyone knows the actual NCAA tournament starts at the moment that music hits on CBS at noon on Thursday. Don't blame me. This is just how things work. I am joined today by Kevin Noon of BuckeyeHuddle.com. We're going to be talking a little bit of basketball because we're pretty much contractually obligated to on the first day of the NCAA tournament. But we're also going to be talking a little bit of football as well, specifically about some of the young linebackers that Ohio State has trying to earn bigger roles this spring. Kevin, I guess let's start with that NCAA tournament. What does the lead up to that first day, what and that first day of the tournament, what does that bring back to you in terms of memories as a kid and favorite things to do during that week in the lead up to that first game?
Well, when I was younger, I did not live by the one bracket for all strategy, so I was filling out 50 different brackets. Granted, we were doing this on stone tablets and not on computers because if we're talking about when I was a kid, there were no ESPN March Madness pools or anything else like that. It was all about just bragging rights with your friends. Maybe you would get their juice box out of them if you won. I don't know. But fast forwarding a little bit, before I came back to work in Columbus, I did get to go out to Las Vegas once for the first day of the tournament, and it was something getting out there and seeing everybody and how serious they were. And I'm there, and I'm afraid to lose a couple $5 bets, and it's great. I think we so often go around these times. It's like March Madness is by far the greatest sporting event, and then we'll get to the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Stanley Cup playoffs are the greatest event. The Masters is the greatest event. I really like March Madness. I am a huge fan of it. I enjoy it. I consume as much as possible, and just hearing to the lead up about it. Just trying to read about injuries and everything else before I fill out my one and only bracket.
Yeah, I am not quite stone tablet old, but I am definitely old enough to remember cutting the bracket out of the newspaper and bringing it to school on that Monday after Selection Sunday and making a bunch of photocopies and handing them out to friends and putting together bracket pools and all that kind of stuff. That was kind of early 90s. My son is 10 and has really gotten the sports bug and really, really is into all this stuff and has been watching incessantly and sitting there and filling out bracket after bracket and, reading Ken Palm, which was not something that I did when I was a kid for whatever reason, but, reading Ken Palm and putting together bracket and then changing his mind and putting in another bracket and watching ESPN. I have seen more ESPN on in my house this week than I have in probably six months, a year at least. But yeah, it is fun watching him and thinking about, the 1990 NCAA tournament and when I was, a little older than him, but watching the UConn team go on its first really big run. They had the big buzzer beater against Clemson and then got to the Elite Eight that year. And that was a really, really big deal for UConn back in the day. So yeah, I've always liked that. And I've always loved that first day, the first and second day of the tournament. Did you ever have teachers wheel in the TV cart and watch, if UConn was on that Thursday or that Friday, we generally got to watch a little bit of basketball in class on those days. Did you guys ever get to do that, or did you have mean teachers?
I had mean teachers, and the years that you're talking about, 1990, I was already in college. I was already at Ohio State at that point. So, no, growing up in Southern California, while there certainly were basketball fans, it was not an overriding type of thing there. People would get more concerned about when we got into the Major League Baseball postseason. At that point, I certainly remember watching Padres postseason games that were snuck into rooms and people listening to it on radios. And then when I moved to New Hampshire to finish out high school, I don't really remember it, but I do remember sneaking into the teacher's lounge at one point and catching a little bit of one of the games with a buddy of mine who may or may not have had some money on the game. That was all foreign to me. I would have never done anything like that. I was very straight and narrow, and actually I was, because my parents were very mean, and I would have been beaten into next Tuesday if they would have known.
Yeah, and still are to this day. Never put a dollar on anything, I'm sure. Do you have any? I don't know what level of excellence you have reached in terms of college football or college basketball NCAA tournament brackets. I used to win them a bunch when I was kind of college age or a little after college age when I really paid close attention to college basketball. I've kind of lost interest in the regular season for the most part and end up just kind of picking it up and looking at Ken Palm and throwing something together. I have told this story on Buckeye Weekly before, but my wife won our neighborhood bracket 2 years in a row. And then retired from and just basically said, like, just mic drop, like, I'm going to let someone else win this year, and stopped competing. And everyone was convinced that I had put her bracket together. No, I did not. She just beat me and beat everyone else for a couple of years in a row. My son is now kind of taking that role, I think. Do you have any favorite strategies in terms of filling out a bracket?
Don't think too much. I think that is the best one. When you sit there and you analyze and overanalyze, and then you outsmart yourself. I kind of did that with the SAT as well. I sat there and it's like, pick the title that would be best for this blurb or whatever. And I'm such a contrarian. I'd make an argument for all four of them and confuse myself. Well, I can do that with basketball as well and look and be like, well, I don't care if this player's injured. This team just really seems hungry, and I go through all of that. So I generally go on first reaction. I play a lot of the trends. I like to take the 12-5 upsets. I mean, the 13-4 upsets are a little more in vogue now at this point. I find myself in the later rounds getting a little bit more conservative, so I may go pretty loose in the first weekend of the tournament, but seeds start to hold in the second weekend of what gets through there. I've won brackets twice. I won one bracket probably 15 years ago. That's how bad we're talking about. And then I also was in like a second chance bracket when I was working in television at the ABC affiliate here in Columbus. And we did like a Sweet 16 and beyond. And I picked a perfect bracket. So obviously I couldn't lose since I picked a perfect bracket at that point. And since then, I've had no luck. I generally finish in the bottom third. So I wouldn't take any of my advice when it comes to filling out a bracket. I didn't even fill one out last year. And in a way, it was liberating. And in a way, it was sad. So I don't know which was better.
I got to that point a few years ago, and now, I have my family saying, well, you have to do one, just even with us, even if you don't enter it anywhere else. So I get to finish, third or fourth place in my family, in my house. But one thing that I think I have communicated all of these strategies to the people who now beat me in brackets. So I'll communicate them to you, and maybe you will do better than I do now in these days. But the most important thing, everyone spends all this time agonizing over the first round 8-9 games. This is worth 1 point. Guess what the championship is worth? 32 points. If you get the champion, you're probably going to win, or you have a very good chance to win, especially if that's not the team that everyone's picking. If 50% of the people in your pool are picking Houston, don't pick Houston, because the odds are you're not going to do very well. You're not going to win, even if you pick the champion, if it's Houston. Pick a different team. I'm going with Kansas this year. Why? I think the Big 12 is probably pretty good, and so I'm kind of going heavy on Big 12 teams. I'm short the Big 10 this year. Purdue and Indiana are the only two I have getting out of the first weekend. But good conferences. Pick teams from good conferences who have played a good schedule. Pick teams. Pick a team to win or a team to make the championship. Who is not the team that literally everyone else is going to pick? Because if you get it right, then you're probably going to win your bracket. So there you go. There's your free advice for the day. Take it or don't, whatever, but please enjoy the tournament. These two, the Thursday and Friday, are two of the very best days of the year on the sporting calendar. It is an event unlike pretty much anything else. And then if you're anything like me, you will lose interest by weekend too, but that's okay, because you have this Thursday, you have this Friday, and this weekend as well to enjoy. So please enjoy that. And once this first weekend is over, we will be back to covering Ohio State football in person. We'll be back inside the Woody Hayes on Tuesday for the Buckeyes' third practice of the spring. But before we get to that point, Kevin has written about a couple of the young Ohio State linebackers who are potentially in line to at least take on some kind of a bigger role, or working to earn a bigger role this spring. That is not going to be an easy thing to do, because they do have Steel Chambers back. They have Tommy Eichenberg back. They've got Cody Simon back. So there's a question of how much time and how many snaps are really going to be available. But with a guy like CJ Hicks, I think people are sort of, Kevin, lumping him in with Sonny Styles, where these two guys are both 5 stars from the 2022 class. So they both should be playing this year, and Sonny Styles feels like he's very close to being at that point, and CJ Hicks feels like maybe that path to the field's going to take a little bit longer. How hard is it for someone like that to sort of just be patient at this point?
Yeah, I mean, he certainly feels like he understands the defense and has the ability to play and is hopeful. Jim Knowles came out and said that he hopes to rotate a little bit more at linebacker this year. And as we know, it's not a matter of, well, you just have, the career longevity award, so we're going to give you time. You have to earn that time. You have to show that there's not going to be any sort of drop off from the first team to the second team. CJ Hicks is doing everything that is being asked of him and required of him to get to that point. Another year within the system, things are slowing down a little bit for him, and he feels like he's in a good spot. I mean, he does recognize that there is a little bit of a logjam off the top with Chambers and Eichenberg and with Simon, and when you're running a 4-2-5 and you're in the position that's 2, and there are only going to be 2 linebackers on the field in most instances, and with Wisconsin having a complete change of what it does, are you going to have to sit there and go to a 4-3 against Wisconsin under a Luke Fickell type system of what he's bringing in with his coordinators? I think we're going to see a little bit more of a pass-friendly offense in Madison this year. There's going to be a lot less opportunities to come in as that third linebacker. So you really have to kind of show why you need to be able to be interchangeable with one of the starters. And I think that certainly is the goal, is to be able to have a couple of waves of guys to try and keep guys fresh, keep guys healthy and everything else, because if you reach your end goal, you're playing 15 games, and that's a lot of football.
Yeah, that is a lot of football. We have seen Ohio State need to get into that depth at a few different positions over the last few years. Linebacker has generally not been one of those, but one thing that I think people are looking at a 5-star like CJ Hicks and saying, well, if he's not playing his second year, something's wrong. You have to get him on the field, certainly by his second year. And our buddy Tony Gerdeman put something together on the board at BuckeyeHuddle.com, the history of 5-star linebackers at Ohio State over the last 12 years. And the guy being on the field as a sophomore or even as a junior, third-year player, that would really be the exception rather than the rule. Curtis Grant, 2011 5-star, became a full-time starter as a senior. Mike Mitchell never became a 5-star full-time starter, despite being a 5-star in 2013. 2014, Dante Booker and Raekwon McMillan both came in as 5-stars. Booker became a full-time starter as a senior. McMillan, the only one to become a starter as a sophomore. So, people are remembering Raekwon McMillan. There's only one Raekwon McMillan. That is not necessarily how it goes for everyone. 2015, Justin Hilliard never became a truly full-time starter, was certainly a contributor, especially on that 2020 team, but was never a full-time starter there. 2017, Baron Browning finally became a full-time starter as a senior. 2018, Taraja Mitchell, he became a full-time starter as a fourth-year junior and then ended up losing that job and is now transferred to Florida. And then CJ Hicks. So it is certainly not a given that, 5-star or not, it is not a given that you're going to end up on that starting rotation as a sophomore or even as a junior or even as a senior. There are guys who don't ever pan out, but CJ Hicks certainly seems like he's on track to get on the field at some point, but it won't necessarily be as a starter this fall. Another guy who's kind of working his way towards the field. You talked earlier about that change in sort of the opponents that they're facing and how many 3 linebacker lineups they're going to have to run out this year without a Wisconsin ground and pound or an Iowa on the schedule this year. The other guy who's sort of, I think, a little bit of a forgotten man in that rotation is Reed Carrico. He's entering his 3rd year and is from a program that has produced a whole bunch of very, very talented players out of Ironton, Ohio. What is Reed Carrico's path to the field like? Is that has to be entering your 3rd year? You're still sort of looking for a role. That has to really, at that point, you would think it probably is starting to test his patience a little bit to try and find a spot on that field.
It is. But he's somebody playing down in Ironton, a smaller division within the state of Ohio. It was a huge step up to go to Ohio State. And let's remember, somebody who's now going, a couple years into the program, they've gone through multiple assistants and schemes. He was here for the single high system that, Kerry Combs and Matt Barnes and the change that they had to kind of do mid-flight and now to the 4-2-5. And Now James Laurinaitis is like the assistant that is working with him, but he's gone through Coy McFarland. He's gone through Joe Bolden. There have been a lot of changes for him, and he's taking bits and pieces of things that he's learned from everybody and trying to put it into his game. And, he's somebody as well that's trying to, he's trying to find the ability to play either the Mike or the Will, because we don't necessarily see the Sam in this system. And he feels that he's coming along, but he tries to block out the noise of everybody trying to put him out the door already, saying, "Well, you've been here a few years and you haven't found it." And speaking of Sonny Styles and C.J. Hicks, you got guys like that who are behind him in terms of seniority, who everybody's already ready to pencil in for 24. He's just blocking out that noise and going about his business. Now, does that mean that I'm saying after this 23 season that he's going to be the guy? No, I mean, I don't think any of us know, but Reed Carrico certainly has taken the right approach about this and is focusing. And he pointed out that nothing wrong with 3-star linebackers, even though Carrico was a 4-star linebacker. Points out that Tommy Eichenberg was a 3-star, and now he's like an All-American. So it's just a matter of if you're ready when opportunity knocks on the door, but you better be ready, because with this type of roster that Ohio State has, it doesn't knock twice.
Yeah, and if you go back through the history, I mean, we went through the history of the 5-star linebackers at Ohio State. Kind of weirdly, it almost you go through some of the 3-stars and you end up with better careers in some cases than the 5-stars. And that maybe uniquely at the linebacker position, that's been true at Ohio State, where for every Mike DeAndre, a 5-star that doesn't pan out, you have an AJ Hawk 3-star that does, or for every Taraja Mitchell that doesn't necessarily pan out long term, you have a Tommy Eichenberg. So that is a spot where pedigree doesn't necessarily mean anything, and now it's just a matter of getting on the field and earning it, and that's what those guys are going to be trying to do this spring as practice resumes on Tuesday next week. But before that, we have NCAA tournament stuff to enjoy. And if you're a member of BuckeyeHuddle.com, you can also enjoy our Buckeye Huddle March Madness challenges. We have 2 of them. The first is sort of your traditional March Madness bracket. You can enter that with our partners at Play Action. And the other choice is their Build Your Bankroll, which operates, it's kind of like a virtual sports book. You can be a part of that competition as well. So you can be a part of both of those. And the prize on the line for both is they're both free for Buckeye Huddle members. And the winner of each one is going to get an autographed Dwayne Haskins jersey. So that's kind of a cool prize for you, and they're free to enter for Buckeye Huddle members. So if you want to get in on the action, you should hurry up and sign up at BuckeyeHuddle.com right now. We've been always telling you, hey, try it out, check it out, see if you enjoy it, try it for a month. Well, now, if you sign up today, hurry up, sign up today, get yourself in on all of those competitions. You have a chance to win those cool prizes. You also get a chance to enjoy that first month at BuckeyeHuddle.com, which is going to coincide very neatly with all of spring football. Give it a try it out for a month, and you get a chance to enjoy all of the try those competitions, but also enjoy all of our spring game coverage, all of our spring football coverage. It'll go right up to the spring game on April 15th, and then you can see if you want to stick around after that. But give it a try today at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That will do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Enjoy the basketball, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.